And that was another chapter, and Mrs. Gandhi, of course, continued. And there again, in 1972, there was the Simla Agreement, in which the both sides, that is Mr. Bhutto and Mrs. Gandhi, came to an understanding on India-Pakistan relations. If only the Pakistanis were honest about it, that would have solved the problem between India and Pakistan. Because we unconditionally returned 96,000 Pakistani soldiers without anything in return. We returned the whole land which we had captured in Pakistan. And the only thing that Mrs. Gandhi wanted in return was a solution to the Kashmir problem. I presume that you all know the Kashmir problem, so I won't go into those details. But the situation was that there was a ceasefire line which the United Nations had agreed on, and there was a peacekeeping force. So India and Kashmir was divided into Indian Kashmir and Pakistani Kashmir, what we call Pakistan occupied Kashmir and what they call Azad Kashmir. And ours is what we call Jammu and Kashmir. And in between was this ceasefire line and a few UN soldiers. This is how the peace was maintained. So in return for all the concessions that she made to Pakistan, she wanted this border to be turned into an international border. She was not asking for more land. She said whatever is the ceasefire line, which was determined by the Pakistanis, because they invaded us and they were stopping where they reached. And we should have thrown them out, but we did not do that. We said, okay, you stay here as a ceasefire line, and now you change it into a line of control. That was the historic agreement in 1972. Then somebody said ceasefire line cannot be managed because it's a straight line. And therefore, the Indians and Pakistanis sat together and changed the alignment of the ceasefire line and called it line of control. And the understanding at that time was the line of control will become the international border, and that would solve the Kashmir problem. So an agreement was actually drafted, and Bhutto, the clever man that he was, he told Mrs. Gandhi that I agree entirely, but if I go after signing this, they will hang me in Pakistan. So Mrs. Gandhi is a mother, so she said, okay, don't be hanged. You go back and talk to your people, and then come back and sign. That was the agreement that they reached. And Bhutto left, went, and he was hanged anyway. So there ended the so-called Simla agreement. So now Pakistanis say there was no Simla agreement. We have never seen it. And that document is missing in Pakistan Foreign Office. Because they want to renegotiate, they want the Srinagar, the city they want all other things. So we still stick to our position that the line of control should be the international border. Of course, Mr. Modi has changed it slightly recently. In the last 2-3 months, he has started talking about Pakistan occupied Kashmir also being part of India. And that is actually a change of Indian foreign policy in that sense, because the whole world is expecting that the line of control will be the international border. So our demand that Kashmir, the other part of Kashmir, should also come to us is a big shock to the international community. But anyway, we are not doing anything about it. He just mentioned it as a matter of principle. So then the relationship with the Soviet Union became very strong during this period after the Bangladesh war. And there was one reason for it was that Soviet Union was the only country which would purchase goods from us because our quality of goods, exportable goods, the same acceptable was to Soviet Union. But those goods were not acceptable to other countries in the world because they are not sophisticated. We had these Ludhiana sweaters and Panama cigarettes. These are the kind of things that we used to export. No American, no French, no British will buy any of those. But Soviet Union will buy that because they didn't have even Panama cigarettes. They didn't have even. And so we had this very good arrangement of a rupee-ruble arrangement in the sense that we don't use cash. We export all our whatever exportable material we had, and we imported heavy machinery and equipment. And India's economic situation, its infrastructure, its industrial base, everything changed dramatically. And so this was a very needed, it had nothing to do with ideology. Mrs. Gandhi was not a communist at all. She did not even accept Soviet Union's view of the world. But this was a major need for us at that time, because nobody else would buy with the quality of the goods that we had. So it was again a pragmatic policy to be close to the Soviet Union. But as a result, people all over the world, all over, started thinking that India is a satellite of the Soviet Union. India is a Sputnik, they say, because that word was very popular at that time. And therefore, we were misunderstood that we were the agents of the Soviet Union. So our relations with the West became worse. Americans kept us away. There was no, of course we had cooperation with the US at that time also, because in PL 480 wheat, and the Americans used to ship it to India. That's how we survived. You know, Malayalis who never ate chapati started eating chapatis. I remember this. We did not know what this chapati stone was. My uncle had brought one from the north. We did not know what it was. We thought it was to beat your wife or something. But a new culture was developed, because the free wheat which came in from the United States, what kept India alive at that time. And also during '62 war, President Kennedy sent out lots of arms and ammunition to India, short notice. And we had even an agreement with them for continuous flow of arms and ammunition. But the Chinese just withdrew. They did not stay there. If they had stayed longer, we would have been now talking American, not English, because the America would have taken over us. Anyway, that's all old history. But to come back to the foreign policy aspects, though we had contacts with the Americans, particularly on the wheat as well as on arms, these are the kind of questions you will get. Was there any occasion when India and US cooperated during the non-aligned period? We did. We survived because of the Americans. And finally, they did not take the money for that wheat. PL 480 was put into Indian banks. Whatever we had to pay for the wheat was paid in rupees, and that's kept in the Indian banks, and that built into a huge amount of rupees. And the Americans don't know what to do with it. They were paying their salaries, building their embassy, etc. with our money. But finally, the Americans gave the biggest check ever written, I don't remember the figure, to Government of India. It is in the Guinness Book of World Records. That was the biggest check in rupees that was ever written. And so we settled that. Anyway, so this goes on to that period, we should say till 1977. So yeah, I would say that the pragmatic period in Indian foreign policy is considered to be during Mrs. Gandhi's days, and of course Mrs. Gandhi's rule abruptly ended because of the 1977 elections. You know that at that time a new government came under Morarji Desai, and that was the first non-Congress government which came to power. So non-Congress government, people like Desai and Vajpayee, etc., were closer to the US than to the Soviet Union. And therefore people expected a lot of change when Morarji Desai became Prime Minister and Vajpayee became Foreign Minister. But they did not change. Partly because they came to know the depth of our relationship with the Soviet Union. I went with Morarji Desai to Moscow in 1978. And on our way, as we were flying towards Moscow, he asked us, "Do you know why I am going there?" To destroy the relationship with the Soviet Union. That was the mandate that he had given us. He said, "This is too much. We should not get involved with these commies." This is what he told us, that this is your mission. So please understand, please destroy everything and then we will come back. But the same gentleman, in the same plane, when we came back, he said, "This is a fundamental relationship. We should not make any change in our relationship with the Soviet Union." Because he realized the amount of the breadth of our relationship. So we were negotiating the joint statement. And the biggest problem was what to do with the treaty. Mrs. Gandhi had signed the treaty, but the treaty had disappeared. We were not follow it. So Morarji Desai told us, you can say anything in the joint statement, but the word treaty should not appear. And the Soviets started saying, we can write anything in the treaty, but first write is on the basis of the India's Soviet Union Friendship Treaty. So we were like standing at these two extremes. And every evening we would go to the Prime Minister and say, "Sir, this is something we have to say about the treaty." He said, "No." Then I said, Even there will not be a joint statement. He says, how does it matter? You don't need a joint statement. That was the kind of atmosphere at that time. But I said, every prime minister has come to United Soviet Union, there has been a statement. He said, I'll be the first prime minister without any statement. And this went on, but towards the last day of the visit, he said, you can put in something about the treaty, because I'd spoken to Brezhnev, who had insisted. So the only change that they brought about in foreign policy was to call non-alignment genuine non-alignment. This you should remember. You could all be asked, what is genuine non-alignment? And this is a phrase that the Morarji Desai government introduced into India's foreign policy. But in actual sense, what does it mean? What is different between milk and genuine milk? There's not much difference, it's only a perception, isn't it? So, but what they meant was closer to the US, further away from the Soviet Union. That was the correction they wanted to make. So, President Carter came to India for one day, thinking that United States and India are going to be friends, but then something happened and Carter had to leave. That's another story. Anyway, so India tried to be as close to the United States as possible, but that transformation was not very easy. But some changes were made. We talked about NPT. Of course, the word NPT you must all know. I hope you all know. It's called the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And India is one of the 3 countries which have not signed it. All other countries, 193, 190 have signed. And those who have not signed are India, Pakistan and Israel. Good company, isn't it? When I was ambassador to the IAEA, my best friend in Vienna were Pakistan and Israel. Every other country would not even talk to them. But in Vienna, the point was that we were the only 3 who had not signed the NPT, and we had to stick together. Anyway, why we did not sign the NPT was because it is discriminatory, you know that. The reason why, because we wanted the NPT to be signed by everybody to give up nuclear weapons. But the 5 nuclear weapon states insisted that they must be exempted from it. So the NPT now says these 5 countries can keep all your nuclear weapons and the others shall not make weapons. So India stood out and said, nothing doing. Unless everybody gives up, we will not give up. The principle is, if they have weapons, how can we not have? And therefore India stood outside and Pakistan stood outside because India stood outside. That was the only reason. They even now say, if India signs the day, we will sign also. And Israel, because of their problems with Arabs, the Arabs had a lot of chemical weapons. So they said, unless we have nuclear weapons, we cannot survive. So, but the NPT, you must remember, it's a fundamental faith for us. India will never sign the NPT or related. But Americans tried with Morarji Desai to get India to sign the NPT or make some adjustments, etc. But soon Mrs. Gandhi came back in 1980, but she physically was back even in 1979. And 79, this major development took place. Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. That was 1979. Mrs. Gandhi was already elected, but she had not become Prime Minister yet. And Charan Singh was the Prime Minister at that time. So Charan Singh, being a Janata Party man, he said that Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan was wrong. So I was present there. He called in the Soviet ambassador and shouted at him, saying that you must get out of Afghanistan. Then the Soviet ambassador said, sir, I listened to you, but I have just come back from Mrs. Gandhi's residence. So Charan Singh had a shock. What is Mrs. Gandhi doing? Because she was only the Prime Minister elect. And he said Mrs. Gandhi had full understanding of our position in Afghanistan. Then Charan Singh shut up because he's not going to be Prime Minister in the next 3 days. So he kept quiet and there ended the conversation. And Mrs. Gandhi supported Soviet Union and Afghanistan. This completely broke up our relationship with the US because the US was very angry because India's position is that no foreign troops should enter any country. That is our fundamental non-aligned position. Mr. K.R. Narayanan was ambassador and they called him up and said, what kind of non-aligned are you? And K.R. Narayanan, as you know, was an associate of Nehru and principal man. So he kept calling us and saying, why don't you say something that the Soviet Union should get out of Afghanistan? No way, Mrs. Gandhi would never allow that. And so, Narayanan had a huge problem in Washington. They stopped supply of nuclear material to Tarapur. This Tarapur atomic station was in collaboration between India and the US. And they used to supply uranium to us, but they stopped it. Similarly, several actions they took. And so Mrs. Gandhi stuck to her guns and she became Prime Minister in 1980, early 1980. And things came back to normal with the relationship with the Soviet Union. And so that is the period. Though there was a little diversion during the Janata period, this whole period of Mrs. Gandhi till her assassination has remained as a part of what is called the pragmatic foreign policy of India. Of course, after that we had Rajiv Gandhi, we had Narasimha Rao, and the biggest change in India's foreign policy took place in Narasimha Rao's days. You know why? Because that is when the Soviet Union collapsed. The news, the collapse of the Soviet Union shocked Mr. Narasimha Rao out of his wits. I remember sitting in front of him and he did not know what was happening, because there was nothing for us to depend on. Soviet Union just collapsed. And what do? All our interests, all our relationship with Soviet Union, Americans are very mad with us. And what to do? And somebody went and told him there is a coup happening in the Soviet Union and maybe the communists will come back. And he was so happy. Can you imagine an Indian Congress leader saying, very happy to get back communism? That was the kind of dependence we had. But this man had the guts to change everything. Overnight he changed India's foreign policy. The first thing he did was he sent an ambassador to Israel. We never had an ambassador in Israel. And he realized that the only way to get into the hearts of the Americans is to go through Israel. So Americans were surprised when he immediately recognized Israel, sent one of our best diplomats as ambassador to Tel Aviv. And that changed the mood in the United States. And then I was in the US from 1992 onwards. And we changed, we were different people. I looked like myself, but I started talking a different idiom. We started talking about non-alignment again, close relations with the United States. We adjusted our foreign policy according to the United States' interests.